Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into something that's pretty fundamental to how cars work.
Yeah.
Torque.
Yeah, torque.
And to help us out, we've got this really cool YouTube video that breaks down the mechanics of it all, specifically in internal combustion engines.
You know, it's funny you should mention that because I think most people, when they hear torque, they think of like big trucks.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, pulling heavy stuff.
Exactly. But it's actually at play in every car, even those little compact ones zipping around.
Absolutely. It's what gets you moving from a dead stop.
Right. And to maybe give folks a visual, think about like pushing open a heavy door.
Okay.
If you push right near the hinge, it takes way more effort.
Yeah. So much harder.
But if you push from the handle where you have more leverage, it's much easier.
Exactly. That's torque in action. The further out you apply the force, the more twisting power you get.
So by the end of this deep dive, we'll all be feeling a little more connected to what's actually happening when we step on that gas pedal.
Yep.
All right, so let's break down how this magic happens inside an engine.
Okay, so first things first, we got to talk about the 4 strokes of an internal combustion engine.
Okay, I remember this from high school. Intake, compression, power, and exhaust.
You got it. And it's that power stroke where the real action, where torque comes into play.
Right, so take us through it.
So picture this. The engine's taken in air and fuel mixed it all up and then squeezed it tight in the cylinder.
Packed it in like a suitcase.
Exactly. Then, boom, the spark plug ignites the whole mixture, causing a mini explosion.
That's the part that always gets me. How such a tiny spark creates so much power.
It's pretty incredible, right? So this explosion forces the piston down.
That's the engine's leg, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you could say that. The piston's connected to a rod called the connecting rod, which is kind of like the knee.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And the connecting rod is attached to the crankshaft, which is like the hip.
Got it. So the piston goes down, pushes the connecting rod, which then turns the crankshaft.
Exactly. That's how that linear motion of the piston gets converted into rotational motion.
And that rotation, that's what eventually makes the wheels turn.
Yep. The crankshaft is connected to the transmission, which then sends the power to the wheels.
But wait, before we get to the wheels, we got to talk about torque. How does that fit into all of this?
Right. So torque is simply a rotational force.
Okay.
Think of it like turning a wrench to tighten a bolt.
Makes sense.
The crankshaft doesn't just spin effortlessly, it has to overcome resistance to get those wheels moving.
Right, because the car has weight and there's friction and all that.
Exactly. And the further out on the crankshaft that force is applied, the more leverage it has, which creates more torque.
Uh-huh. So that's where the crank throw comes in, right? That distance from the center of the crankshaft to where the connecting rod attaches.
You got it. A longer crank throw means more leverage and therefore more torque.
So why not just make all crank throws super long then? More torque all the time.
Well, there are trade-offs.
Yeah.
A longer crank throw might give you awesome low-end torque, but it can make the engine less smooth at higher speeds.
So it's like a balancing act.
Exactly. Engineers have to consider a bunch of factors, like what the vehicle will be used for,
Right.
what kind of performance they want to achieve.
I see.
And they tweak all sorts of things, like the engine size, how efficiently the fuel burns, and even the shape of the crankshaft itself to optimize torque for specific situations.
So it's kind of like they're composing a symphony of power.
I like that analogy.
So we've been talking a lot about torque, but what about its partner in crime, horsepower? How are they different?
Ah, yes, the classic torque versus horsepower debate.
Yeah, everyone's always arguing about which one is more important.
Right. But really, they both matter. Torque is your raw twisting force. It's what gets you moving from a standstill. It's that feeling of being pushed back in your seat when you hit the gas.
Okay.
Horsepower, on the other hand, is more about how quickly you can keep going. Think maintaining high speeds on the highway.
So torque is like the initial burst of energy, and horsepower is about sustaining that energy over time.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
So if you want a car that feels really peppy off the line, you want more torque.
Exactly. And if you want a car that can really fly on the open road, you're looking for horsepower.
All right, so let's bring it all together. We've got this explosion in the engine pushing the piston, which turns the crankshaft.
Right.
That creates torque, which is then sent through the transmission to the wheels, making the car move.
And the way engineers design and tune the engine determines how much torque the engine produces and at what engine speeds.
This has been awesome. I feel like I can actually visualize what's happening under the hood now.
That's great to hear. That's what we aim for.
And you know, it makes me think, when I go to buy my next car, I'm definitely going to be paying attention to those torque specs.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
It's definitely something to consider, depending on your driving needs.
For sure. Well, folks, there you have it. We went deep on torque and how it powers those awesome internal combustion engines.
Hope you all enjoyed the ride.
And until next time, happy driving.
See ya.
Bye.